Welcome to Global Edge Talk, the podcast where we celebrate the global entrepreneur. I'm Kasey Snyder, head of European growth at Global Edge Markets. I'm stepping in as your guest host for this special episode. My team and I specialize in helping Nordic and Baltic tech leaders navigate the complexities of North American expansion through market readiness assessments, fundraising, and strategic business development. I recently returned from Sohjo in Joensuu, Finland, a city that sits at a fascinating geopolitical and intellectual crossroads. While it may be a remote region near the Russian border, it's also home to the University of Eastern Finland, a powerhouse of research that is fueling a surge in high-tech startups. In this episode, I'm bringing you my interviews with founders who are proving that distance is no barrier to world-class tech. You should be listening because these are companies that aren't just building products. They're solving global challenges in digital defense, harmful emission reduction, and predictive AI analytics. At Global Edge Markets, we believe that social capital, or the connections and trust that we build across borders, is a critical ingredient for our global future. By supporting these innovators, we aren't just growing businesses, we're improving our collective society. Let's dive into the exciting work happening in the forests of Eastern Finland. Hi, Juho. Great to have you here. I'd love to learn a little bit more about Einbus. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so we're building this platform that connects passengers, organizers, bus operators, and travel organizers on one platform. So our goal is to predict public transport demand and provide more bus routes and more buses and less private cars, hopefully.
This sounds like it would be very valuable for big cities with major events happening.
Yeah, actually, we have worked with major events like these music festivals, for instance, where there are thousands of people during one day in one place. So we have arranged bus connections from like intercity bus connections there. And we've also piloted some shuttle services. So like when you're traveling a few kilometers inside a city. So those are the two main use cases that we're piloting.
And are you only looking at urban destinations, or do you have applications for all-terrain or off-road spaces as well?
Sorry, you mean like
all-terrain, like non-paved roads?
Non-paved roads. Yes, we've also been exploring this like a concept of terrain passability. So in terms of, this is more like border security, looking at how passable, how well vehicles can move in the wilderness. And that's a completely different use case in a way, but we can use the same algorithms for routing and this kind of finding routes and optimizing them.
What sort of concerns would someone have if they're trying to manage through a wilderness or forest area? What obstacles do they encounter?
The main obstacles are vegetation and like the slope. We use terrain models as the base and vegetation based on satellite images, but also the weather changes, like rain can turn roads into mud, for instance. So it really has a big effect on how well you can drive a car somewhere.
And do you think having your company here in Finland with the more challenging climate is a benefit for your company?
I think definitely, since we have 4 seasons every year in Finland. So I think that like really highlights the differences between like for example, every Finnish person has 3 sets of clothes. So one for summer, one for spring and fall, and one for winter. So I think that same applies for like moving around in the forest. So you have to think about whether you put skis on or boots or sandals.
But that makes a lot of sense, actually. And can you tell me what you're doing here in Joensuu?
So in Joensuu, we're pitching this wild flow idea, which is related to border security and ecosystem restoration, wildlife habitats, which is like, might not sound like it relates to the transit platform thing, but actually it's technically the same solution to these both problems.
Excellent. Well, it was wonderful speaking with you. Thank you for sharing, and best of luck at the pitching competition.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm sitting down now with Jani of Process Genius, as well as Jani of Mecmetal. Thank you both for being here with me. I'd love for you to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about your companies.
Yeah, Jani Akkila, Process Genius, representing our product Genius Core. We are basically providing a platform for industrial companies to build a holistic digital twin view of their operations with from map level to asset level, floor level, combining 50 to 80 softwares to one UI to share the distribute the information in context to different user groups so that everybody knows all the time what is going on and what is about to happen.
Okay, interesting.
Yep, and I'm Jani Toropainen, CEO of Mecmetal and also co-owner of Mecmetal. Mecmetal is 30 years old company. Have been manufacturing fully electromechanical concrete product production lines. So the equipment for manufacturing like paving stones or building blocks or whatever, and also specializing on this that you can use a different kind of materials in the production. So it doesn't need to be the traditional concrete, and we have many sustainable ways also to handle the actual concrete to make it low carbon products. And that is the one that we are now specialized. And the reason why we are here together is actually this, that we have been listening to customers a lot, and the service part of the business is more and more important. We have always had a lot of intelligence in our production lines, in the control systems, but now we are moving totally in the new phase, that way that we are now combining the actual equipment, the actual environment of the customers' factories to platform which shows the real
life situation and
yeah.
predicting the future as well.
Yes. And also combining all the important key things from the customers together to do the production more efficiently.
Hey, how interesting. So we have a legacy company in the construction field that has now found this unique opportunity to partner with SaaS software. And it sounds like you have a predictive element to your model as well.
Basically, we are visual layer. So our software enables one to build visual layer, but information, data, predictions, mathematics, physics, they have to come from elsewhere. I would say that if you know Power BI, companies are making dashboards with Power BI in factories, showing dashes and graphics and traffic lights. Currently, with our kind of flagship customers, they are replacing Power BI with our interface. Because having a in-context digital twin of the cells and production equipment is much more efficient for people to understand in context than having a dashboard full of it.
Okay, and do you feel like this is a complex tool to learn? Will it take a lot of training for the individual people on the team to all be able to coordinate together?
No, because they know the real life, they know the process and plans. So now they just have a virtual digital twin 3D model where is all the data and information connected. So it's much more easier for them than kind of random graphs.
Okay. And have you implemented this into any of your projects so far?
Yes, we have a pilot now, which is running there. And I would comment also, it is not that difficult. It is actually like very, very good for us because we don't need like 15 developers to build the software from the scratch and keep it up all the time, update everything when it is needed. But the Process Genius part is taking care of that. The platform is all the time updating. There is new preferences coming all the time. And then we just need to take care to bring all the important like a production information to the platform, show it to the customer, and then we can concentrate on discussing with the customers and actually the most important things that the customers care. Bring it to the platform, and then the Process Genius is doing the part that is taking care of the platform itself and the code and everything what is going on that side.
Excellent. Very interesting. And would you say that both of your companies are headquartered in this Joensuu region?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit more about why you've selected this area and maybe what makes it a beneficial region for innovative companies to set up their headquarters or find opportunities?
I would say that this region has a long history because there is a John Deere factory, there is a Abloy factory, and many industrial companies have been born here or located here. There is a very good subcontracting networks also. For us, example, we are doing actual machines, so we need some plasma cutting parts, and we need some welding and machining and stuff like that. And there is already some big companies which are needing those same things, so we can use the same subcontracting networks. And then the software side, maybe Jani can tell a little bit more about that.
Why we are in Joensuu, basically it was a little bit by accident. The company was founded when the two of the founders were living in Bahrain but we were Finnish, so kind of just tested that what would be the good place. And at that time, business used to have experienced export industrial people working, and they kind of catch our idea and help us to locate here.
Great, excellent. Well, thank you both for your time. This was a really interesting story, and I'm excited to hear about how your collaboration is helping both of your businesses to grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting down with me, George. Let's talk about human-centric future of industrial robotics. Your company name, Henki, translates to spirit or breath of life.
Yes.
Industrial robotics is often associated with cold, sterile efficiency. How are you designing software to give machines a more human or intuitive presence in the workplace?
Yes, that is a great question because a lot of the machines and robots that we work with, they work around humans and with humans. So taking into consideration the human interaction aspect as a first step in the, let's say, user experience and design of the platform we are building is important. I can give you a clear example. For example, in the past, we have been working with a autonomous robot that was navigating around construction sites. And construction sites by nature are very chaotic, very messy, lots of stuff going around and lots of people. And people that work in construction are not very fond of modern technology, and I would have to say that they weren't really the type of people to respect the machine. And in that space, the machine has to be respected, but the machine has to respect the person as well. So what we did is we made a very simple to use interface for the robot that was basically on a tablet screen, on an iPad. We had the interface that the robot was meant to be controlled with, and it was very intuitive. And the people that worked with the robot had to only basically click somewhere and the robot would go there. And the navigation stack of the robot was developed so that it would take into consideration the safety of humans first. So as soon as a human came into space, the robot would stop, would not do anything else. But I think to add on to the question, building successful machines that work with and around humans in the 21st century is a symbiotic relationship. It's a bit of a back and forth. For the machine to be successful, it has to take into consideration the safety and working with a human being. But we, as humans, have to also kind of respect the machine. So to be self-aware and to be aware that we are working with machines, and if we want to accommodate them into the workplace and around us, we need to be aware that they're with us and to learn to work with them, right? So it's a bit of a back and forth.
Okay, that's interesting. Self-awareness on the part of the human as well as the robot.
The machine, yes.
Yeah, very interesting. You've been instrumental in modernizing the master's curriculum at University of Eastern Finland. What is one thing universities are still getting wrong about robotics education?
That's a great question. I think I wouldn't really paint it in a way that the universities are getting it wrong, but I think a lot of educational institutions are still stuck in the, let's say, past ways of teaching robotics. So one thing that they should do is to keep up with the industry standard. That's one thing, and that's what we did with our course. But then I think the importance of robotics education and how it should be done is twofolded. So firstly, it should focus on hands-on experience, but at the same time, it should strive to build an learning experience, especially in robotics, seamless. That's not stuck in details. So what exactly we did, we adapted our framework that we are using in our work, Robotics Operating System, or ROS2. It's the second iteration of it. And we took away all the headaches of installing it and setting it up for the students. So the students can jump in the course and in the really experimental part of what we do so that they get their hands on and they understand why we are using that thing. Not, okay, let's spend a month to install this thing, so then we can jump into why we are learning that thing. By that time, 80% of the students, it's a number that I just came up with, will lose interest. So we need to keep the students interested, make the education experience and learning experience seamless, and keep it hands-on.
Perfect.
I would say.
On Agentic AI in ROS2, you envision a near future where robots program themselves in real time to adapt to new warehouse tasks. What does this mean for the role of the traditional robotics engineer in the warehouse?
That's a great question. So the future that you just described in the question, let's say, is not far from reality. It's quite maybe in the near future than in the long distance future. So already our work as robotics engineers is shifting greatly from just coding and coding and coding ourselves, from more defining the requirements of what the robot should do and what the task should look like, and then the agentic AI is building it with us and for us. But I think that the role of the robotic engineer still is important when we link what the agentic AI and the robot does in relation to the real world. Because our experience as traditional robotics engineers is built from times when these tools were not available to us. And it already brings a challenge that links to the educational side of things. How can we still train robotics engineers that have the hands-on experience without the experience of having robots do a lot of things by themselves? That's going to be tough to solve, and I don't have a question for that. But I think that the role of the robotics engineer will be to, well, firstly, orchestrate and make sure that what the agentic AI does is according to standards, and it's not something totally out of the realm of what should be done. Orchestrate, design, and basically supervise. That's probably going to be the shift of human roles in many niches and many industries, not only robotics, but that's already happening to us as experts building these robots. So we're not yet going to the stage where robots program themselves for new things. That's a bit far away, but programming them for existing things is already a very automated task in which 90% of the effort has been shifted to the AI. And we are more, which is good from my perspective, focusing on how we can make these things. What are the requirements? What's the design? What's the architecture of these things? And I think that AI is still some steps away from being able to take that away from us.
Fair enough. Okay, last question. I heard that you are a stand-up comedian in your spare time. Can you share one funny or disastrous event that you witnessed, a robot fail, perhaps?
Yes. Funny is maybe, I can try to paint it in funny ways. So one time we were working with this robot, autonomous mobile robot. Well, we were programming it to do a fairly simple task, which would seem quite counterintuitive for some of your listeners. But basically, we were trying to make our robot drive slowly in a very straight line. I mean, we had a margin of error of about 2 millimeters to deviate from that line, so quite small. But what happened, and what goes to show that human error can happen even if you're a seasoned expert. While we were testing with that robot, we were in our office back then, and the robot was in the office. We had a strip, like kind of duct tape strip on the ground to have the robot, really keep track, or for us visually to know that it keeps track of the straight line. And the robot also had let's say a piece of wood behind it, like a straight long piece of wood behind it, to make sure that it follows the middle line. And as we were testing, I remember, I think I was doing the test, and I put a wrong value for the velocity of the robot on one of the axes of movement. And instead of the robot going slowly forward, it started driving with full speed backwards through a glass door that
with
broke.
this wood piece attached.
Yes, that broke. Luckily, no one was there, but that's just kind of shows the impact of like a small change, how big of an impact it has in the real world. Right. It was funny. We laughed it off.
Oh, good.
We made sure to not do that kind of testing again, and to safeguard it nicely. There's many funny stories that have happened. I've yet to incorporate them in my stand-up.
Okay.
I'll try to for the future. Thank you.
Well, this was perfect. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. Lovely to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Joona, for sitting down with me. I understand that you are an expert in carbonized wood technology and utilizing industrial side streams for sustainable construction. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We have a company called Hiil Limited, and we have found out a way how to carbonize the wood without using any external fossil fuels. It's really energy efficient and good for the environment, and we have combined a way to utilize the kind of unused wood streams from different sources, from construction industry, from sawmill industry. So basically, we can treat wood to reclaim it and to make better use for it.
Well, speaking of the construction industry, in the US, the market is shifting heavily towards healthy building. How does Hiil's carbonization process eliminate the need for chemical preservatives while outperforming traditional treated lumber in the harsh North American climates?
This is really important factor for us, that we don't want to use any toxins in protecting the wood. So all of the components that we use in our wood are nature-based. So we have the wood. That is the raw material. That's nature-based. We apply fire, which is nature-based as well, and we also use special made linseed oil that has been. They have gotten get out of jail free card from all of these REACH chemical control tests and systems, because it is all natural based linseed oil. So with natural components, we can get the durability of the wood really high, but also the aesthetic aspect really good and long lasting. So you would look into decades of this wood being untreated. So you just put it up and leave it there, and it will last, because the burning process is the kind of our engine that we get the protection from.
You've turned wood waste into a premium product. As you look toward North America, do you see Hiil as a product exporter or as a technology provider that can carbonize the waste of the US-based timber giants?
Yeah, we are now that we are a small company still. Most likely we would approach international markets with product exports, just to get our business running in different markets. But definitely in the future, it does not make logistically sense to start shipping wood from Finland to other side of the world, essentially. So we are heavily looking into commercializing our technology. Once we get our patenting and the protection around our technology and innovations, then we'll start finding out opportunities and potential customers who would be interested in the technology side of it.
And how are you positioning Hiil to be viewed not just as a design choice, but as a critical, long-lasting structural innovation for large-scale developers?
Yeah, that's how we are doing it. I think it all comes down to references and the projects that we made. We have made a decision that we will not be doing handicrafts in our company, but instead we have been pursuing industrial scale operations and industrial scale manufacturing, which would be tens of meters per minute should be the processing volume. And with our latest factory that we opened up in November, we are already there. We are just lacking the customers, not enough customers to fill the whole capacity. So right now we are running at, let's say, 10% capacity as of today. But we, for example, last week we started negotiating a project here in Finland that would take 100% of our capacity for the next 3 to 4 months. So it's the largest customer so far that we are negotiating with. But this is exactly the type of customers that we are looking for. It's a project that comprises of dozens of buildings that would want all of the buildings to have the exterior cladding from the burnt wood and from this promoting these ecological values. Once we land that, I think it's much easier to get other second large scale projects. I think they all follow each other.
And you mentioned to me earlier that you are a serial entrepreneur and that you have lived outside of the region but have returned to start these businesses. So I'm just wondering, is there anything about the Joensuu area that makes it very special for innovative startup companies or high-tech companies to establish here?
I would say that there's a really low threshold to get your network up and running here, and a really low threshold to communicate with all of the higher ups in the city officials and those who give permits and so on. I would say that the bureaucracy level is the same here as in other cities, but the kind of people dynamics are much easier. Friendly neighborhood, and if one would start a company here, they would get it up and running quite fast and meet the right people locally quite fast. It's also really good network. The region has networked quite heavily to other places as well, even though we are located in a remote corner of Eastern Finland. Most of our customers and most of our projects we have done in our company are elsewhere, in other markets and in other cities in Finland. So I don't see, with the digital age and with internet and Teams meetings, I would say that the remoteness of the place is a good side, because you don't need to use time on commuting, or you don't need to use time on getting around difficult people dynamics. I think there's a lot of benefits to be staying here.
Perfect. Well, it was lovely chatting with you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the interview.
Hi, Leo. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to learn more about Vesko and what you're working on.
Hi, Kasey. Thank you for having me. So I'm Leo. Vesko, we are building a retail operating system for retailers, offline retailers first. So we are offering them like the platform from which they can go online, but also to actually manage their store, to have like a point of sale system, to have a logistics, to have payment solutions, and it's all connected. We are a startup, and we have basically just launched it and provided like our first customers. And now we are in Finland, but by next year, we are also like looking forward to go worldwide.
Excellent. And when you're talking with small business owners and store owners, what are they expressing to you about their concerns about opening up an online shop, or how they can incorporate AI into their current processes?
Well, the same issues actually coming from even like big businesses, let's say like even manufacturers, and going online, it's not that simple like people like would say. So we are not trying to replace Shopify in that sense, but we are offering the same solutions when it comes to visibility. So the most difficult part for them so far is actually getting their data and being, let's say, like visible online. It's not just, let's say, like a storefront. There's like a lot of manual work behind that. And using the current technologies, it actually takes something between 2 months to even 6 months to set up. And so far, like for small, big businesses, like using the AI itself, they are like still, let's say, like in the buzz. They have no idea like how to use it. And everyone is, let's say, like using consulting agencies. And by the time they finish their agent, a new update has came and they have to change everything. We have just came from Sweden, and we have done like a small research in Sweden, and also, let's say, like the rest of Nordics and Finland. And for them, they want to see AI actually helping them in cutting manual work, not in increasing it. And so far, like even with the current solutions of the models themselves, they are good. But I don't like to have, let's say, like my Shopify chatbot creating the description for me. I need more than that. So these things that they have been hearing from our customers, and in the next 6 months, we are developing a solutions that actually help enrich the data for the customers. So it's like if they get, let's say, like 100 products, in a few clicks, they can get it online. And the same thing also, let's say, like for the manufacturers. So it's like instead of using too many multiple systems and fragmented data, we can create like a whole product description for them and enrich their data for them. That's also going to help them to be visible for many customers too as well. So yeah.
Very good. And you mentioned so far you're working with customers in the Nordic region, but what's your plan for scaling this to international markets or North America, for example?
This is the next step for us as soon as we get our like AI layer. Again, it's like applied AI. So that's like what people are like looking for. And we hope that is going to take people take notes for it, and we can get some, let's say, like some PR lift for it. And by 2027, when it's ready, we are ready to go, let's say, like a whole EU. And the next step actually is like the North America markets and the UK and the rest of the world. So yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned having international co-founders for your company, but you also said you really enjoyed living in Joensuu. So what makes this area a really desirable location for early stage founders and startup companies?
That's an interesting question. So it's like as 2 months, last month we were like in Joensuu, and I brought my two co-founders here to Joensuu. They have never been like in this area before. One of them is like actually living in Berlin. The other one is like living in Lake Como. They were, let's say, like amazed by the ecosystem here, and they was like just shocked. And they like to be, let's say, like in a place where I can go to my workplace in 5 minutes, and I don't have to do that via metro. Yeah, so this is like one of the things that they are actually like about like being in Joensuu.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, nice to speak with you, Tomi. If you could share with me your vision and inspiration for Sohjo this year.
Once again, this is a great event what we have established over here in Joensuu. So where people from different angles come and meet together. So creative people and more technology orientated people. So as a city where we have over 20,000 students, this is exactly the place to have this kind of business events.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Miska. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I'd love to learn more about Fiidback. Can you tell me about the company?
Feedback is AI-based conversation, but we are in wider mission. We want revolutionize feedback culture. So feedback giver will be familiar and know why the feedback is essential to give. And we want to companies and other players is able to use feedback to grow, and so they don't need to make mutual that is not needed. We want that everyone can give feedback anytime to company that they are interacting. Example, in events, you see something is wrong, you can instantly give a feedback for event organizer, and someone can come to fix it or make it better. So it's not like we event make it better at next time. It can fix and make it better now.
I understand. You mentioned to me that your inspiration for starting this business was that the current feedback loop is broken. So what do you think are the biggest issues with the current feedback surveys?
I think biggest is that companies try to only collect data. They don't try understand why and how people might want to give, and what is the bottleneck, how people feel when they now give when they arrive the feedback survey link in example in email. Everyone get 10 of many of these survey in weeks, example, but no one know what is their feedback impacting to anywhere. They don't see that is necessary to give it.
Okay. And I want to understand the global mindset of the company. So how did you bake the international scalability into your software architecture when you were building the company?
Big year.
So would it be like, the language flexibility that it can be?
Yeah, we think that our software will be able to integrate it in any app or website, and we can make the whole flow, how to people know that you can give the feedback easily, and when you can give it, and what happened after and before you give the feedback.
Oh, great. And thinking a little bit about this region of central Finland, what would you say to investors or potential partners in the US about the reliability and creative problem-solving skills of software engineers coming from Finland? So tell me a little bit about what makes software engineers in Finland a bit special. Does it have something to do with their culturally, the reliability, the consistency, creativity, and problem solving? What would you say is special about here? What do you think, Fadi, from your personal experience or what you bring to the project? What do you think is really?
I think we had Nokia here. It was very good for us. And old employees of Nokia is now made companies, big companies, and so tech companies, and they are maybe accelerators to high tech firms, others, and we have big.
Do you have any special connection to the university that you attended when you were developing this product?
My technical co-founder has a connection to Karelia, and we are making some corporation with them. And we have one people who make our software from Karelia. It's very nice to have 2 of 4 founders in Joensuu.
And just remind me which partners you have currently. Which companies are you working with now?
We have the pilot customer. Our pilot customers is now in city of Joensuu, and one smaller company will be Talousnoste, a small accounting firm, and we help them to collect internal feedback that people who are different places.
And are you participating in the pitching competition this week?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good luck to you on that. And thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me.
Thank you.
Great to sit down with you, Sami. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I'd like to learn a little bit more about Filtson. Can you explain the company to me?
Yeah, thank you. I'm more than happy to do that. So Filtson is a spin-off company from the University of Eastern Finland, and we have a technology which can reduce methane gas directly from surrounding air. It's based on a microbiological process, and the cool thing about it is that it can reduce it in real time. So we can constantly measure how much we have reduced, and we can quantify that constantly. And our business is based on the benefit, how much methane has been reduced. And that's what we are offering to the customers.
And how does this apply for farmers, particularly dairy farmers that may have to deal with this issue?
Yeah, so agriculture and food industry is the first segment we are targeting with our first application, also which we launched last year. And the benefit in that industry, kind of considering the whole value chain, is that the food companies are processing the product which farmers are producing. So, but the emissions are from their overall kind of value of production chain. So that's why the benefit comes for both of them actually by reducing the emissions from the overall value chain. So it's equally important for the farmers to reduce their direct emissions, but also the food companies' emissions, because they're using the products what the farmers are producing, which is the milk or beef. It's actually not only dairy farms; it can be also utilized by the beef farmers.
And you mentioned that that's just the first application. So what other markets are you interested in?
Yeah, so the beauty of this technology is that it's not only limited to one industry or one segment. So we started from there because the first application was much easier and faster to implement and bring it to the market. So we can really show that this technology works, if you will. But there are also other segments and 2 major ones. The first one is waste treatment, various kind of waste like bio waste, and also water cleaning or water treatment is another area within this waste treatment. So that's a big segment. And then the third one is energy segments, coal mines, natural gas, and oil wells. are ventilating a lot of methane every day because it's like a side product from them. Those are the segments we are targeting also. And we actually have starting the first pilots already now this spring in this waste treatment industry. So we are already tackling 2 out of those segments.
Very nice to hear. Now, I think there is a lot of concern in sustainability about greenwashing right now. And what would you say your perspective is on that? And how would you justify the science behind what you're?
I'm actually really happy that you asked that, because that's one of our core things and differentiating factors compared to many other technologies, which we, by the way, need. We need all the different technologies to help in this global warming challenge we have. So technology, and especially the quantification, is really element. Like mentioned, that happens in real time. And we are able to actually measure the concentration before and after the reduction it happens. So we can constantly quantify and also kind of show that how much reduction we have made. And we can easily turn that into a CO2 equivalent, which is the common currency in this business. So actually greenwashing as such, from this kind of quantification perspective, is something that we don't need to worry, because we can constantly show that almost in real time how much reduction we have made, and where, particularly on the device level or farm or facility or factory level or area level, whatever you like.
So would you say that then that makes you a reliable source for companies that are looking for emissions offsets or need to make purchases based on the maybe issues that they have in their own companies within separate industries?
Yeah, that's actually exactly where we're targeting now in the beginning. So exactly those industries which can reduce their the emissions from their own production chain. We offset market is maybe one day, if we have so much supply that it's enough to be offered in the offset market. But we want to offer this technology to the segments and industries and customers who wants to reduce their own emissions. That's our target, and there are a lot of those, because methane actually just changed last fall by United Nations IPCC. Based on them, it was now kind of lifted to the second worst environmental gas after carbon dioxide. So it's a really bad gas, 28 times worse than CO2. So the warming impact.
Wow. So then are you targeting international markets, specifically any regions or countries that you think would be able to utilize this most quickly?
We definitely focus on globally. So Finland and Nordics are probably somewhere where we start, but we already have now discussion, for instance, in China and actually US as well. So because you have a big dairy and beef industry there, and also oil and gas. So we've been contacting one Canadian company who is offering equipment for oil industry. So that's probably one area also we are looking into.
Okay. Now to go from the big global perspective to this very narrow region of Eastern Finland, the company is from this area, is that right?
Yes.
And what do you think makes this region of Eastern Finland so desirable for innovation and for startup companies?
I think that the University of Eastern Finland, where we are spin off, it has a lot of different areas where we can utilize the innovations and the know-how and expertise. And actually, one of our founders is still to continue working in his academic career in the University of Eastern Finland, and we see that as a really key kind of partner for us also in the future, because the basic research is done there. And they constantly seek for new opportunities and innovations, and which we can then hopefully, at least some of them, we can take and start to productize and commercialize them. So I think we really see it as a key contributor for our business. And then also they can do like we are doing now in Joensuu, or starting soon is one kind of targeted project where they can provide some extra resources and facilities and equipment from the university, which we need. So it's definitely an important for us, especially when we are in startup phase, when we don't have all the things ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, it was wonderful chatting with you. Thank you for sharing these insights with us.
Thank you.